Title: TIFU by not ratting out my neighbor. I live in a U.S. state where marijuana is legal but also live in an apartment complex that takes federal aid for a few units designated for low-income renters. A section in the lease forbids marijuana use on the property because if the feds somehow found out, the complex could lose those funds. On nice days like today, I like to spend time out on my deck reading. Occasionally, my downstairs neighbor will go out on her deck to take a couple hits from a pipe before ducking back into her apartment. I don't mind this as I'm a live let live kind of guy. The problem is that our decks overlook a courtyard where the complex manager's office is located and she has a nose like a bloodhound. 2 times, the manager came out right after my neighbor goes back inside, smelled the weed, and looked at me in an accusatory WTF manner. Both times I pointed in the other direction and said, they went that way because mama didn't raise no snitch. This morning it happens again. The look on the manager's face dispelled any notion of using my now standard reply, so I just kept quiet and shrugged. She said, "We'll be in touch," and went back in her office. Now I'm sitting here wondering what's gonna happen. The common denominator is me in her eyes, so I'm certain she thinks I'm the culprit. I have messed up lungs from my former career, so smoking is a no-go. I'm also newly retired partially because of the messed up lungs and on a fixed income. Getting evicted would suck as the complex is quiet, low crime, and about $500 less a month than other properties. Guess we'll see what happens. TLDR, I covered for my stoner neighbor and might now be accused of violating my lease. Edit to update: had a sit-down with the complex manager. Apologized for misdirecting her and explained I couldn't smoke even if I wanted to by explaining my medical condition. I offered to do a UA, but she said it wasn't necessary as she'd already caught my neighbor mid-toke. She didn't offer info on what's happening next, but at least I'm off the radar, if a little peeved that I disclosed medical info unnecessarily. Commenter says, why not just nip this in the bud and go explain that you medically cannot smoke and that you've smelled it too but don't know the source, nor are you responsible for finding the source. Commenter says, that's not a fuck up. You're good, bro. You have a medical condition that means you cannot smoke. You have papers for it because you're getting assistance. You're good. At worst, you have a landlady who doesn't like you. Maybe let her know with a quick text when they get in touch. Lol. Commenter says, deleted title, TIFU by going on a date that wasn't a date. This happened a couple weeks ago and it's pretty embarrassing. My mom has a younger coworker that she spoke to briefly and mentioned me. Long story short, she added me on Discord and we exchanged some messages. She seemed interesting. We mostly talked about music, hobbies, and in general what we are doing in life. My taste in music is a bit niche and I was surprised she liked some of the same stuff. She's also artistic, which is cool. I admire people that can do things I have no skills in, like visual art. We decided to meet up during the weekend to go see a movie and then go for dinner. This is where I fucked up. I never use the term date and normally I would make that clear when inviting someone, but I made the mistake of assuming anyone thinks strangers meeting for a movie and dinner would be a blind date. So we met at the theater and watched the movie. Obviously it's hard to talk to someone during a movie, so we didn't talk much. When we went for sushi we immediately started talking and we hit it off. The conversation was great and smooth and we both probably shared more than what the average person considers first meeting material. She was extremely attractive and she had a great personality. I was really attracted to her openness and blunt way of communicating. We both laughed a lot and nothing seemed forced. It was like talking to someone I've met before. She mentioned she doesn't want kids and I absolutely don't want children myself. We finished eating and then we talked for almost another 2 hours outside until we went our separate ways. She said she wanted to hear me play my instrument, which I took as her inviting herself over, which seemed like a good sign for a future meeting. She texted me when she got home and said thanks for tonight and such. So in all my apparent obliviousness I texted her another day and told her I had a great time and I'd be interested in seeing her again. I offered to make dinner and invited her over and that sort of standard thing. She responded some days later saying that she wasn't looking for a relationship right now and wasn't in a position to do so and apologized if she gave that impression. She said she'd still like to hang out or play games though. I was mortified due to the obvious. I thought it was a date the entire time and I was the only one thinking that way. Now, that's embarrassing, but the problem is I unknowingly fucked up the dynamic. She seemed like a cool person and even after the misunderstanding wants to hang out. I've read so many stories of good friends trying to make the jump to a relationship and they ruin it entirely, and I've already explicitly expressed my interest in someone that wants to be friends. I don't want to be disingenuous, so I just told her obviously I was a bit embarrassed, but I'd be down to hang out again. I just feel a bit scummy about it because I already expressed interest. TLDR, I'm an idiot and thought that a movie and dinner with a new person was a date. It was not a date, and thus, my embarrassment. Commenter says, I mean, given the circumstances, I would assume it is a date too if I was in your place. She didn't think it through how it will look and didn't communicate her expectations ahead of time, so it was a bit of a curse situation. Commenter says, it was a date but she's just not interested, and it was her polite way of saying it. You did nothing wrong. Commenter says, I don't think you are an idiot. Going by what you wrote, I think it was a date too. Don't feel bad because you expressed interest. You did nothing wrong. Thanks for watching. I love you. Follow Reddit Echoes for more.